Hi, Kenyon. Welcome back to our video series.
Hey Claire, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I guess we're in the start of a new week, so I'm good.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So right from the start, I know this video series is our effort, our first step into the broader world, and I'm always thrilled to, have this opportunity to be a part of this journey with you and also with ARGITEK. So now, speaking of opportunities, Kenyon, I know you had an opportunity as a speaker and representative of ARGITEK during conferences, right? So how do you manage and capitalize on these opportunities to share ARGITEK's values and vision with others?
Well, probably conferences are my favorite thing because it gives an opportunity to share perspective, to share architects' values, as you mentioned, and as a way of being able to empower other organizations and empower people. That's like the driving force behind Architect. We have as our mission to unleash potential, and that really is at the heart of it all. In the last conference I did, in my bio, one of the things I say is that I consider myself a second chair leader. And what that means is that I see Architect as more so a partner that can come alongside leadership or an organization and be the one to kind of scope how the organization is doing, how leadership is functioning, how staff and teams are working together, and how all of the skills and the resources and their capacity, how it all works together, and be able to identify maybe something they didn't realize they had, some type of value they didn't realize they had, and be able to say, have you thought about, executing this or leveraging this, or maybe expanding your program or service in this area because you have this particular capability or capacity or skill that, it really works for your organization and you're not really leveraging it. Be a source of insight for organizations it's why ARGITEK exists, and it's what I actually enjoy about the work. And so even in conferences, while it's not the same dynamic where I'm necessarily pulling alongside and partnering with those that are attending, I'm sharing insights with them that I'm hoping they capture, right? And it makes them say, I want to know more about, this particular topic, or I want to gain a little bit more insight in this particular area, or I would really like to apply this particular principle to my organization and see what it does. So that's how Architect's values going to show up at these conferences. In the last conference conference I attended, where I presented, the focus was around strategy execution. And one of the biggest takeaways from an attendee there was, wow, like, it was great to learn and hear something new. And not only is it new, there are other things I've learned along the way that relate to this, but this helped, crystallize it for me. Those are very encouraging moments, that it makes me feel, as a leader of Architect, that we're doing something right, or we're at least moving in the right direction. Right. So, that's the value.
So it's always fascinating, Kenyon, to hear about your stories during conferences and you representing ARGITEK. So speaking again of conferences, so I want to know if you had a recent insight or a lesson from the events or the conferences that you have attended, like you found particularly valuable in driving to ARGITEK's growth and improvement.
Yes, a big one.
Ooh.
So last conference, I walked away with a sense of determination that I'm going to establish a new language for business architecture that really relates to public sector organizations. Since I have learned business architecture, it's been quite an experience in learning new terminology, learning new principles around the discipline, understanding the concepts and what it all means, but then trying to apply that to organizations that are very much focused around human services and have their own language, way of viewing things, has been its own challenge. And I think about a woman who I consider a mentor, Wendy Keene, who, she always says, don't ever tell them you're doing business architecture. Don't ever tell them, and I understand exactly why, but it's so difficult sometimes to not talk about it and call it out by name. And in some ways, I do think it's important for people to know that this is business architecture. That's what it's called. But anyway, in terms of my takeaway, it was having come from that conference and seeing how sharing about business architecture through the lens of strategy execution resonated with some and did not resonate with others made me even more determined just to figure out, okay, there's got to be a way to adjust or tweak this language where the discipline itself and not the discipline, but the practice, the application of the discipline is understood and leveraged by public sector organizations without them being tripped up over, terminology and concepts. I have, even since being back from that conference, I have completely revamped my presentation and the language in it, the order in which I'm presenting the information. And I'm just going to keep testing.
Yes.
I'm just going to keep testing until, I can kind of see the light bulbs go off. It goes off for some, but not for everyone. And I want to be able to capture the full audience. Yeah.
Those are pretty valuable takeaways, Kenyon. So I know that continuous improvement is a very, very important factor in all aspects of our growth. Yeah. And now I'm curious, can you, share with us, like, if you have some practices or habits that, help you maintain that continuous improvement or that attitude, putting the feedback that you received into a determination in your professional life?
Yeah. Our 360 rule. Our 360 rule, because every time there is a thought or idea for us to do something different or new or expand, we have that question that asks us why now, which forces thought around what's the purpose around this. And if we haven't achieved, or I feel like I have not achieved the purpose, then I've got to go back. And so it automatically puts us back in the mindset, puts me back in the mindset of, all right, if we did not achieve this, we've got to go back. We got to try it again. What didn't work? What did work? How might we be able to present this information more clearly? What tools might we need to add? What skills are underdeveloped that we might need to, better develop? I would say our 360 rule, that one question automatically brings it back to that reflection, offers that reflection, so we can go back to, okay, let's assess this and let's try it again. That's all we can do, right? I would say as a growing organization, small organization, that's all we can do. We test and we test and we test until we get it right. And I think I thought about this even as I was preparing to share about strategy execution, that our organizations are really great hubs for experimentation and learning, because the extent to which we have opportunities to be creative and test those ideas and then reflect on the outcome of those experiments and then tweak to try again. I mean, we're doing that all the time, or at least we should if we're, an organization that's attempting to grow. So, I think if we don't have continuous improvement in our organizations, it just means that maybe we're not reflecting enough. Right? Yes. Maybe we're not testing the boundaries enough, and we should. I think we should.
Thank you. Excellent advice. Now, as we wrap up, reflecting on your recent conferences that you attended, Kenyn, any last key takeaways about continuous improvement?
I would say a key takeaway around continuous improvement would simply be push the boundary. Mm-hmm. If you have an idea and it fails, do it again and keep thinking of how you might push the boundary even further even when you try it again. Continue to find ways to reflect, create space to reflect. I'm a veer off a little bit from your question, Claire, because I just remembered that one of the things I've been doing since the conference is identifying capabilities that would be necessary for organizations to really become learning organizations, which are basically organizations that build in reflection. I think it's such a critical piece, and often a missing piece, especially
Yes.
when we're talking about organizations that are attempting to create social impact, and they are constantly on the move, trying to get projects completed, trying to address staffing challenges, and kind of constantly going and going and going, that as an organization they don't necessarily have the moment to reflect. And Peter Sanji, who I love his writing in The Fifth Discipline, where he talks about these learning organizations, that we have to become organizations that are reflective, that can look back at what we've done and to collectively reflect on it and extract from it what we've learned, and then where we can apply that learning. So I've been actively trying to fine tune what are the capabilities that would need to exist in an organization to allow them to have the capacity to do that. Like, what are those specific skills and resources? What are those day-to-day things that they would have to do? So kind of going back to my takeaways, just being reflective. Like, don't lose sight of reflection, and we will continue to improve.
That's an incredible way of putting it, Kenyn, because usually reflection is always missing. The reflection part is always missing in those kinds of insights. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences on your conference and insights with us today. As always, I'm always really glad that we got to know you more as ARGITEK's pillar. So thanks again, Kenyn, and I'll see you next time.
All right.